I have to admit that there are many Christians who are very judgmental, and I mean that in the wrong way. There are Christians who have engaged in legalism, stereotyping, condemning people to hell, and of course when you do that, condemning people to hell that is, you're forgetting the fact that a person can repent at any moment, at any time, and if they sincerely do so, they'll change their eternal destination. So we can never really finally condemn anybody to hell because we never know what they're ultimately going to choose. We also see hypocritical judging by Christians when they tell people that homosexuality is wrong, for example, and then you find out people like Mark Foley and Ted Haggard are doing the very same thing. I'm the first one to admit that that is wrong, and I join you in condemning. I join you in disapproving such atrocious behavior. I know that those types of judging are wrong, but at the same time, Christians are not always, and not all Christians, are judging in the wrong way. Even I have made some mistakes and have judged people in the wrong way, but when it's happened, I have admitted it, and I have apologized for it, because even I, like all Christians, we're a work in progress. None of us is perfect. God is still working on us each and every day. But with regards to the correct type of judging, I do have 3 more things I want to add to my initial video about judging. These are some of the common things that I'm told by those who are involved in the homosexual activist movement. One of the first things they will say to me is, nobody's perfect. You have your sin, I have mine. Well, yeah, that's true. We're all sinners. But there's 2 different approaches to sin. There is the correct approach, which says that when I sin, I admit it's a sin, I confess, I repent, I turn to Christ, and through His grace and strength, I strive not to repeat it. I know that Christians will never be, no person will ever be sinless, but it should be our goal to sin less. That is the right approach. Now, the wrong approach is to say, I refuse to call my sin a sin, and I'm going to condemn anybody that does call my sin a sin. I'm going to embrace my sin, and I expect the world to celebrate and condone it, or else. And then you continue living in that sinful lifestyle. So there are those who are striving not to sin, and those who are just basically going full force into their sin. So there's a different approach with regards to how we deal with immorality in our lives. So yeah, we all have our own sins, but there's a correct way of dealing with it and an incorrect way. Others will say to me, well, what makes my sin any worse than yours? Well, I never did say that. That's really a straw man argument. I never claimed that yours or mine or any sin was worse than another. All sins separate us from God. Yes, some sins have worse consequences in this world. If I worry, it's not going to hurt as many people, certainly not to the degree or extent that if someone were to murder another person. So yeah, they're not all the same in worldly consequences, but with regards to how they are spiritually, they all separate us from God, so therefore they're all the same. The reason why we will focus on homosexuality so much in the church is because it's become such a big issue in our world. And that kind of brings me to my next point. A lot will say, well, why don't you just live and let live? You know, you live your life, I'll live mine. Well, the point of the matter is it's really not going to happen. As I've said, there's no middle ground. Not necessarily because Christians can't find any middle ground, but because the homosexual agenda has, by and large, rejected the middle ground, thrown it out absolutely totally. They have decided that they are going to do whatever they can to make their policies the rule of the law. They're going to try to take over our churches, the government, our legal system, our social clubs. They'll sue the Boy Scouts. They'll rip churches apart. Their attacks on the church are unbelievable. They want churches and denominations to embrace homosexuality, to remove pastors who won't perform gay marriage. And so there is no middle ground. If they wanted a middle ground, they could go start their own church. And they could do whatever they wanted to do. But that's not really their goal. They want to change everybody because they have this belief that they can get everyone to agree with them. Somehow or another, that'll make it all right. So really, when you try to convince the world, I think that sometimes you're just trying to convince yourself, trying to make yourself feel better about it. We also see their indoctrination in our schools. Now, they definitely don't like Christian ideals, anything that smacks of a Christian principle, like for example, when we teach in our public school system, when we teach our children abstinence. They will say, though, that, well, you can't teach the Bible. You can't teach your beliefs. Well, the things you want to teach are based on your beliefs. You believe it's okay. I believe it's not. And besides that, abstinence isn't really totally only a biblical issue. It's also a health issue, and it works every time it's tried. So they really don't want abstinence and gay types of behavior taught side by side. They want anything that smacks of Christianity removed, and they want to indoctrinate our children, my children, against the things that we have taught them. So the point is that they are trying to take away true rights, a clearly identified constitutional right to the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion. These are things that we've had for the entire time of our nation's existence, but they believe that gay rights, so-called gay rights, trump all of them. So this is a battle, ultimately, for the heart and soul of America, and I, for one, cannot sit by idly and let it happen. In other words, you've been engaged.